The silent colony. The Meridian colony gleamed under the amber light of its twin suns, a testament to human ingenuity at the edge of explored space. Nestled between rolling azure hills and crystalline lakes, the settlement represented 5 years of terraforming, of taming a wild frontier into something that could nurture human life. 3,000 colonists called this place home. Scientists, engineers, farmers, and their families. Pioneers who had left the comfort of Earth's protective embrace to forge something new. Commander Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of Meridian's modest defense outpost, watching as children played in the central plaza below. Agricultural domes stretched to the horizon, fields of genetically modified wheat swaying in the artificial breeze. The colony wasn't a military installation or a strategic choke point, just a peaceful outpost of human expansion. "Commander, we're picking up anomalous readings at the edge of the system." Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through her comm unit. Reyes frowned. "Natural phenomenon. Negative. The signatures match nothing in our database, but they're definitely artificial. Multiple objects decelerating from FTL." A chill ran down her spine. Meridian sat at the edge of mapped space, far from established trade routes. Nobody just passed by this far out. "Sound the alert. Level 2 protocols." Within minutes, the peaceful atmosphere of the colony transformed. Civilians moved with practiced efficiency toward shelter zones, while Reyes assembled her meager defense force, 30 trained soldiers and a handful of retrofitted mining vessels that could charitably be called a militia fleet. The objects emerged from the darkness 16 hours later, massive, obsidian vessels that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. They moved with predatory grace, their hulls adorned with crimson sigils that pulsed like beating hearts. 7 vessels, Park reported, his voice steady despite the pallor of his face. Largest is approximately 3.2 kilometers in length, no match in any known registry. Reyes activated the colony's emergency broadcast. "Unidentified vessels, this is Commander Elena Reyes of Meridian Colony. You have entered human territory. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose." The response came not as words, but as action. A blinding beam of energy lanced from the largest vessel, striking Meridian's orbital platform. The entire structure, their first line of defense, vanished in an expanding cloud of superheated metal and vaporized bodies. "Battle stations," Reyes shouted, even as she knew the futility of resistance. "Get the emergency beacon online. Priority Alpha." The invaders, the Krell Dominion, they would later learn, descended upon Meridian like wolves upon lambs. Their weapons tore through the colony's rudimentary defenses, reducing hardened bunkers to smoking craters. The militia vessels lasted barely 3 minutes, their brave pilots reduced to atoms before they could even close to weapons range. Yet the colonists refused to surrender. In the command center, now relocated to a reinforced underground bunker, Reyes coordinated what resistance they could muster. Mining explosives reconfigured into makeshift bombs. Terraforming equipment repurposed as defensive barriers. Every colonist who could hold a weapon volunteered. "They're deploying ground forces," Park announced, the holographic display showing dropships descending through Meridian's atmosphere. Humanoid, but definitely not human. Heavy armor, energy weapons. The creatures that emerged from the dropships stood nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies protected by segmented armor that seemed to shift and adapt to its surroundings. Their faces, if you could call them that, were arrays of sensory organs clustered around mandibles that clicked and chittered as they advanced. For 3 days, the colonists fought with everything they had. They turned the agricultural domes into death traps, the residential sectors into killing grounds. They fought with improvised explosives, with mining tools, with bare hands when necessary. Children as young as 12 ran ammunition and medical supplies through maintenance tunnels, while their parents held defensive positions. But it wasn't enough. It could never have been enough. On the 4th day, Reyes found herself in what remained of the command center with Park and a handful of survivors. Blood seeped from a wound in her side, but the stims kept her focused, kept her fighting. Beacon status, she demanded. Park's fingers danced across the console. Signal confirmed received, Commander. Earth knows we're under attack. A bitter laugh escaped her. Fat lot of good that does us now. Earth is 3 weeks away at maximum FTL. They'll come, Park insisted, his youthful face streaked with soot and blood. Maybe not for us, but they'll come. The wall behind them exploded inward, debris crushing 2 of her remaining officers. Through the breach stepped a Krell different from the others. Larger, its armor more ornate, mandibles dripping with what might have been saliva or some kind of toxic secretion. It surveyed the ruined command center with what Reyes could only interpret as contempt. Your resistance is perplexing, it said, its voice a discordant mixture of electronic translation and organic clicks. You cannot win. You cannot escape. Your species is weak, primitive. Reyes raised her sidearm, knowing it would do nothing against the creature's armor. We've bloodied your nose pretty good for primitives. The Krell commander made a sound that might have been laughter. You have lost 11% of your population and inflicted casualties of less than 2% on our forces. This is not efficiency. This is not strategy. This is suicide. It's humanity. Reyes spat. Something you clearly don't understand. With unexpected speed, the Krell commander surged forward, an armored hand closing around Reyes's throat, lifting her from the ground. I understand that your colony will be harvested. I understand that your people will serve the Dominion. I understand that your resistance means nothing. Darkness crept at the edges of Reyes's vision as the creature squeezed. With her last conscious thought, she activated the neural recording implant all command personnel carried, sending her final moments, her defiance, into the emergency beacon's data stream. Earth will come, she gasped. The Krell commander tightened its grip. And who would cross the void for such an insignificant speck? No one is coming, human. No one at all. As consciousness faded, Reyes heard Park's voice, somehow still defiant. You don't know us at all. 3 weeks later, the Krell had transformed Meridian. The once beautiful colony now served as a processing center, its resources stripped, its surviving population herded into labor camps. Massive harvesting machines extracted minerals from the planet's crust, while the colonists worked until they collapsed. The Krell commander stood on what had once been the observation deck, surveying its conquest with satisfaction. Meridian was just the beginning, a testing ground for the Dominion's expansion into this sector of space. The humans had proven resilient, but ultimately insignificant. Their emergency beacon had gone unanswered, as expected. Whatever central authority governed human space had clearly calculated that this distant colony wasn't worth the resources to defend. A subordinate approached, its posture deferential. Commander, we are detecting unusual gravitational fluctuations at the system's edge. Natural phenomenon. Negative. The pattern suggests artificial manipulation on a scale our sensors cannot fully quantify. The commander dismissed the concern with a gesture. Continue monitoring. Increase production quotas by 15%. The Archon expects results. Hours passed. The anomalies grew stronger. Then, at the very edge of the system, space itself seemed to fold. Alarms blared across the Krell vessels. Sensor operators frantically reported readings that couldn't possibly be correct. Energy signatures that dwarfed anything in the Dominion's registry. Mass calculations that suggested objects larger than small moons. And then they appeared, massive silhouettes against the backdrop of stars, each one a city of metal and weaponry. Ships that made the Krell vessels look like toys in comparison. Their hulls bore the scars of previous conflicts, battle damage worn like medals of honor. On their flanks, in stark white against midnight black, Earth Defense Force. The Dreadnoughts had arrived. Reckoning. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the EDF Reckoning, hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the tactical display. 7 Krell vessels, impressive by most standards, but almost laughably inadequate against what he had brought to bear. 23 dreadnoughts, each one a floating fortress of advanced weaponry and battle-hardened crew. The pride of Earth's fleet, assembled and deployed in record time once Meridian's distress call had reached Saul. "Status report," he ordered, his voice calm despite the fire burning in his chest. "All vessels in formation, Admiral," his XO responded. "Ground assault teams prepped and ready. Targeting solutions locked." Chen nodded, studying the alien ships with professional detachment. The Krell. They weren't the first non-human civilization humanity had encountered, but they were certainly the most hostile. Intelligence suggested they had conquered dozens of species across their home sector, adding each victory to their ever-expanding dominion. They had never encountered humans before Meridian. They were about to learn why that had been fortunate for them. "Open a channel," Chen ordered. "All frequencies, maximum broadcast." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Chen straightened, his weathered face illuminated by the tactical displays. "Krell vessels, this is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You have attacked a human colony, murdered our citizens, and enslaved survivors. These actions constitute an act of war against humanity." He paused, allowing the translation algorithms to convert his words into whatever passes for language among the Krell. "Under normal circumstances, I would demand your immediate surrender and withdrawal. However, the time for diplomacy ended when you fired upon Meridian. Prepare to be boarded. Those who surrender will be treated according to interstellar conventions of war. Those who resist will be eliminated." The response came quickly, a barrage of energy weapons fired from the Krell vessels. The beams, devastating against Meridian's defenses, dispersed harmlessly against the Dreadnought's shield systems. Chen's expression didn't change. "So be it. Weapons free. Commence Operation Retribution." The human fleet responded with calculated fury. Rail guns accelerated projectiles to relativistic speeds, punching through Krell hull plating as if it were paper. Missile swarms overwhelmed point defense systems, detonating against vital systems identified by real-time AI analysis. Cutting beams, developed originally for asteroid mining, sliced through armor and internal bulkheads with surgical precision. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Within minutes, 3 Krell vessels had been reduced to expanding debris fields. 2 more listed helplessly, their propulsion and weapons systems destroyed. Only the command ship and 1 escort remained combat effective. And they were already attempting to retreat. "Interdict their escape vectors," Chen ordered. "Prepare boarding teams." Throughout the fleet, specialized assault craft prepared to launch. Within them stood the elite of Earth's military might. Terran Marines in powered combat armor. Each suit stood 3 meters tall, transforming its occupant into a walking tank armed with weaponry that could level small buildings. They moved with fluid grace despite their size, the neural interfaces translating human movement into mechanical precision. The Marines deployed like meteors, their drop pods punching through the weakened hulls of the Krell vessels. They emerged into alien corridors, weapons ready, and began the methodical process of claiming the ships room by room, deck by deck. Lieutenant Samira Kauri led the assault on the Krell command vessel, her squad advancing through smoke-filled corridors littered with alien bodies. The Krell fought with desperation now, using tactics that spoke of genuine fear. They set ambushes, deployed chemical weapons, even attempted to depressurize entire sections to slow the human advance. None of it worked. The Marines' armor protected them from environmental hazards. Their targeting systems compensated for the chaotic conditions. Their determination, fueled by footage of what had happened at Meridian, gave them an edge no technology could match. "Command deck ahead," Kauri reported, her HUD highlighting the reinforced bulkhead that separated them from their objective. "Heavy resistance expected." "Understood, Lieutenant." Chen's voice responded in her ear. "Capture of the Krell commander is a priority, but not at the expense of your team." Kauri signaled her squad, and they positioned themselves around the sealed doorway. Reaching in 3, 2, 1. The shaped charges detonated, blasting the reinforced door inward. Through the smoke and debris, the Marines advanced, their weapon systems tracking and eliminating threats with mechanical efficiency. The Krell command deck was a scene of organized chaos. Officers frantically destroyed data systems while others took up defensive positions. At the center stood the Krell commander, the same one that had personally executed Elena Reyes weeks earlier, though Kauri couldn't have known this. "Surrender," she demanded, her armor's external speakers translating into the chittering language of the Krell. "Throw down your weapons." The alien commander stared at her, its sensory organs pulsing with what might have been rage or disbelief. How? How did primitives like you create such weapons, such ships? Kauri's finger hovered over her trigger. Last chance. The Krell made a sound that the translation software couldn't process, perhaps something between a laugh and a scream. "You think this ends here?" The Dominion spans hundreds of systems, thousands of worlds. This is merely the first contact between our civilizations. "Then consider it an education," Kauri replied, "about what happens when you attack humans." Before she could say more, the Krell commander lunged forward with surprising speed, a concealed weapon appearing in its grasp. Kauri's reflexes, enhanced by her armor systems, allowed her to sidestep the attack. Her counter came in the form of a powered gauntlet that connected with the alien's midsection, crumpling its armor and sending it sprawling across the command deck. "Secure the prisoner," she ordered, as her squad quickly subdued the remaining Krell. Hours later, Admiral Chen stood before the captured Krell commander, now restrained in a specialized containment cell aboard the Reckoning. Medical staff had treated its injuries, not out of compassion, but to ensure it remained conscious for questioning. "I want you to understand something," Chen said, his voice level. "What happened here wasn't a fluke or an isolated response. This is who we are. This is what happens when you threaten our people." The Krell's mandibles clicked in what might have been defiance. "Your victory means nothing. When the Dominion learns of this, they will send not 7 ships but 700. Your colonies will burn. Your people will serve." Chen smiled, the expression never reaching his eyes. "That's where you're wrong. We're not just defending Meridian." He activated a holographic display showing real-time footage from the planet's surface, where Earth forces were already dismantling the Krell processing centers, freeing the captured colonists. "We're sending a message." The display shifted to show the full Earth fleet, not just the 23 dreadnoughts that had engaged in battle, but hundreds more vessels holding position at strategic points throughout the system. "This isn't our entire fleet. It's not even a significant portion. It's what we could scramble in 3 weeks for a single colony of 3,000 people." Chen leaned closer to the containment field. "Imagine what we would bring to bear for a core world. Imagine what would happen if you struck Earth itself." The Krell commander's posture changed subtly, a shift that human synopsychologists would later identify as the first signs of genuine fear. "You're going back to your people," Chen continued. "Not as a prisoner exchange or an act of mercy, but as a messenger. Tell them what you saw here. Tell them what happened when you thought you could prey on humans. Tell them that distance means nothing to us, that we will cross galaxies to protect our own." The Admiral straightened, adjusting his uniform. "And most importantly, tell them this. The next Krell ship that enters human space will not be captured. There will be no survivors. There will be no messages. There will only be silence." As the Krell commander was led away to a detention vessel that would transport it to the edge of Dominion space, Chen returned to the bridge. Lieutenant Kauri stood at attention as he approached. "Status of Meridian?" he asked. "Recovery operations proceeding ahead of schedule, sir. Medical teams have reached all labor camps. Engineering crews are restoring critical infrastructure. 2,647 survivors confirmed." Chen nodded, the number settling like a weight on his shoulders. Nearly 400 colonists lost. Men, women, children who had ventured to the stars with hope for the future, only to encounter the worst the galaxy had to offer. "And Commander Reyes?" Carrie's expression softened slightly. Her final transmission has been recovered from the beacon data. It's being broadcast across all Earth colonies and outposts, sir. The President has declared a day of mourning. Chen turned to look out at the stars, at the distant speck that was Meridian. She bought time, kept fighting when most would have surrendered, made sure Earth knew what happened. He paused. Make sure her name is remembered. As the liberation of Meridian continued, news spread across human space. Footage of the battle, of the Dreadnoughts appearing like avenging angels, of Marines in powered armor tearing through alien defenses, circulated on every network. The message was clear. No human colony stood alone. No matter the distance, no matter the enemy, Earth would come. And across the galaxy, as the Krell Dominion received their commander's report, as other spacefaring civilizations intercepted fragments of battle recordings, a new understanding emerged about the species that had seemed so insignificant, so primitive, so vulnerable. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and they had arrived with fire.